What's up, everybody? That's stupid. I'm not gonna use that. Hey, my name's Alex, and I'm about to build a computer for the first time for me. I have built one before for my brother-in-laws. It's the first time for me, so this is gonna be a how to build a simple budget computer for beginners. Simple stuff. Let's go. First of all, you need a screwdriver. Second of all, I'll have a list of parts down in the description of this exact build. Like I said, this is a budget build, and everybody's definition of budget is different, but this is what this is. I'm still waiting for some parts to arrive. I need my motherboard still, power supply, and my graphics card. In the meantime though, you can actually do some stuff to your computer that I've already done. As you can see, I've already installed my disk drive, and I've already put my standoffs in my case. I'll show you what those are right now. To take the case off, every case is different, but this one just has a couple screws right here that you just screw off. A couple cases you just hand tighten them, others that you like snap on in weird ways. So as you can see in this particular case, the standoff layout is burned into the case itself, which is nice. And so you just have to go down the list and find out which motherboard you got, and then do the standoffs in the correct spots according to those. So this particular build, I have a micro ATX, so I just used the U slots. And the U slots, there were just a few of them, so there's one there, there, 3 right here, 2 right here. Basically the case came with a tool to help you put these in. You just kind of stick these in, and then something goes on top and you just screw it in tightly. Basically these standoffs are to keep the motherboard elevated off of the case. All right, so getting the disk drive in is very simple. Basically these just pop out from the back. And so when you have your case off, you just flip it around. And you can see back in here, you just can kind of pop them out from the front. And then the drive itself just slides in. It fits very nicely. And then your case will come with screws to screw it in and secure it. Here we go with the motherboard. You don't really need these CDs because we're gonna get the drives off the internet anyway. Here's a back plate for the case, SATA cables, installation guide. You don't need that because you're watching this video. All right, before you begin, most people tell you to put on a static band or have a static mat. They do help because if you accidentally shock this motherboard, you could kill it, and that's not good. If you're not going to do that, just make sure that you are working on a surface such as wood that you know won't conduct anything, and make sure you're on a surface, make sure you're standing on a surface that also won't charge you up. CPU. Here's the CPU fan it comes with. In this particular build, I'm not overclocking, so the stock fan it comes with will do just fine. If you are overclocking, you probably already know what you're doing, and I'm wondering why you're watching this video. There she is. So the CPU is going in here. Your motherboard has a little latch right here that just pops up, and it'll lift out just like that. For the CPU itself, try not to touch the silver part. Just grab it by the edges like this. There is only one way that this will fit into it. If you can see right here, there's a little notch, and there's one on this side too. That's to help you orient it on the motherboard. All right, so it looks like this one goes in this way. And you can tell it's in because it sits down there nicely. It wiggles just a little bit, but that's okay. And then you just close the top, and you just push down the lever. You will hear a little bit of crunching. That scares some people, but it's normal. And then this black thing is about to pop off. There you go, CPU's done. Let's go ahead and get this fan on there. So here's the bottom of the fan. These little plastic screws just kind of like pop into the motherboard. If you can see on the motherboard, right here, 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 and here are the holes it pops into. So that's what I'm about to do. Just kind of rest it on top. And then you can gently but forcefully push them through, and you hear them click. If you want to check, you can look at the bottom of the motherboard You can see that those little plastic pieces are poking through and that they're all even. That means you're on, you're good to go. All right, next step, RAM. All right, so just like pretty much every other part on a computer, RAM only goes in one way, so you can't mess it up. Here's your RAM stick. Here's your slots. First thing you do is you open them just by pulling them out like this. And then there's a little notch right here that will match up with a notch on the motherboard. If you can make it out, the notch on the motherboard's down here and my hole's up here, so it's not the right way. Flip it over and they line up. You just slide it in the hole and then push down, and these side things that we popped open will close on their own. There's one. Line them up, push it in. Here we go. RAM is done. All right, next up is the graphics card. I know you guys have been waiting for this one. So here's the one I got. It's a GTX 950. I did get it on sale, which is awesome. I'll put a link in the description to a subreddit where you can keep an eye on parts that are on sale. That's how I got this one. So again, just like RAM, just like CPU, this only fits in one way, which is nice. There's your notch. Here's the other notch. You just line them up and snap it down. There it is. If you are putting this together on the motherboard box, don't be stupid like I just was. Your graphics card will might have a thing that hangs below the motherboard. So I was trying to put it on the box like this, and therefore it wasn't snapping down and I could have hurt something. So make sure to just hang the edge over. Now we can get it nice and in place. Next thing we're doing is putting our power supply in. Here it is. Most of them have a fan on the bottom, and then the cords come out like this into the case. And on the back side is where your cord goes in, and here's the on-off switch. And so you just, depending on your case, some are on top, some are on bottom. Most of them are on bottom though. Just kind of set it down in there, and then you just push it forward until it's nice and even with the case. You can get down like this, turn this around. And there should be a couple of screws that it came with that you can secure the power supply into the case with. It's nice and secure in there. It's not moving around at all. It's good to go. Next quick thing I'm gonna do is remove one of these back plates. Actually, I'll probably remove two just to be safe. This is where your graphics card will stick out. Some cases you actually have to break off a piece and then it's gone permanently. This one is nice and it's just a piece you unscrew. So there's one. There's two. All right, now we're gonna set the motherboard into the case. Remember, make sure your standoffs are in the correct position, otherwise you could kill your whole motherboard. All right, so next, we're gonna be putting this back plate in for the motherboard. These just kind of snap in from the back side, or from the inside. It just goes in right here. Make sure you got all four corners snapped in all the way, and then you're good. So on your motherboard itself, there are actual physical holes through the entire thing, such as right here. That's where your standoff will poke through, and then you'll screw your motherboard into the standoffs. Try to line up the holes as best you can. The motherboard ports on the back should fit into their base plates. So I've almost got it. There's a couple things snagging here and there. What's going on? All right, for your motherboard screws, they should have came with your case. Here's a bag full of them. If you're unsure, refer to your case manual. So you got your screw, got your screwdriver. You want to be very careful in this step. You don't want to drop any screws into the computer because that can cause problems later. Screw it in. Do not tighten it down all the way yet. Just kind of get them in there loosely. Get them all the way around and then tighten them down. All right, so you've got your screws in, your motherboard is nice and secure, it's not moving at all. Next, we want to secure the graphics card. Right here and right here, there are 2 holes for screws to secure that down, because this is a little heavy, especially if you have a full length one that goes from like here all the way over here. Then you'll definitely want this. I mean, you need this, it's part of the build. So just grab the screws that you had earlier, the plates that you took off, and you just screw them back in for the graphics card instead of a back plate. Up next is our hard drive. This is just your standard hard drive. Here is the back end of it, and here's the front back end because it sits in like this and stuff plugs into there. Depending on your case, these will really just slide in. Too big for up there. So what we're gonna do is stick it down in one of these. And these should really just be able to slide in. Kind of like that. And as you can see right here, I have lined up 2 screw holes on the hard drive with the case. So I can screw these in, and I'll do that right now. These screws should have came with your case. So again, check your case, instructions, manual, to see which screws go in there and just tighten them down. All right, now don't forget, there's these screws on the other side as well. So we need to flip this around, take off the side, and then do it again. All right guys, we're almost done. The last step is to do some cabling and hooking everything up. All right, so this big long one hooks into your motherboard. Before we start, once again, these cables only fit into one spot each. They won't fit into each other. So this goes into your motherboard. One tip is you want to, if you can, go behind the case and then come back up out of it and plug it in. It makes it look prettier. It helps airflow just a little bit. So we just feed it through the back and then find a hole up here somewhere, bring it back through. And then here on this motherboard is where this slot is. One thing to note about these power cords is that they're shaped differently. Each pin is shaped differently. Some are square and some are these weird, like that kind of shape looking ones. And they're all different patterns, so they will only go into the slot one way. All right, so you just want to match up where you are going to put everything. Make sure your squares are going in squares, and make sure your house shapes are going in house shapes. And this should just go in just like that. And when you wiggle it, it shouldn't move or come out. One other thing to note is you can see on the motherboard, see in the top right, it says CPU fan. So all of these slots that you're plugging into should be labeled. That one says CPU 1. If we go down here, here are your SATA ports for your hard drive and your disk drive. Here is your USB ports for the front. And you can see how they're all labeled. If you just follow the cords, because they should be labeled too. I say that and then mine aren't labeled. Okay, here's one that's labeled. See how this says PCIe? That'll be this slot because that's your graphics card. And then depending on your power source, you just find where this is, or if yours doesn't have this grid, it'll have a bunch of cables like this, and then all those should be labeled also. All right, so CPU fan, we'll go in the top right. You may need to unhook it from the fan itself for it to reach. It's still not reaching. Okay, so I just need to unhook it from all of these. CPU fan is plugged in, just like that. This cord seems to be the CPU power. So again, I will feed this through the back. Bring it up through this hole. And my CPU power is way in the top left corner over here. So just kind of, get it nice and tight so you get the most slack. And then line up your square holes and your house holes, and you should plug in. All right, next up, let's do the PCIe cord. So this one right here. So it looks like this. We'll plug in, start the bottom. Plug in like that. 3 up here it looks like. Square lines up with square. House lines up with house. Oops, and I have it upside down. See how it didn't even go in when I had it upside down. Give it a little pop, and it's in. All right, let's do some front USB. The cases, these cables should already be attached to your case when you get it. All right, so there it is. It's a little bit messy, but it's okay. So basically what you want to check for is make sure I like to go component by component to make sure everything's plugged in, and that way you don't miss anything. So CPU, we got the fan on there. Here's the power to the fan, and here's the power to the actual CPU. So CPU is good. RAM, you don't do anything with, that's good. Let's move on down. This right here is where my case fan is plugged into. So that's good. Here are the motherboard connectors. Those are good. Let's go on over to the right. Here's the disk drive. We got those plugged in. Those are good. Move on down to the hard drive. Those are good as well. And those get plugged into down here. So right there are the disk and hard drive. Right here's our USB. This mess of cables are the front LED switches and power switches and stuff like that. This particular motherboard, they were not marked very well, so I had to look at the motherboard manual to see where to plug those in. And there's audio. Here is the power for the graphics card, and everything is plugged in down here. So that's about it. Only thing left to do now is put the case covers back on, plug it in, throw in your operating system. I have Windows 10 on a USB, so I just plug it into the back on the USB port. If yours is a disk, you just open up the disk drive and pop it in. When you turn it on, installing Windows is super easy. It just takes you through a step-by-step, where you want to install it and stuff like that. And it doesn't take too long. So that's about it. I hope maybe someone out there learned something from this video. I don't claim to know everything there is to know about computers, so I'm sure there's stuff that maybe I could be working on, getting better at. But that's about it. Again, all these parts are in the description. Thanks guys for watching. See you guys later.